10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Liftoff, and the clock is starting.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And as the seismic forces grind away, it's time now for Kerbalcast, episode 51. Whole lot of shaking going on.
It will be so big, people need to know that the shaking is not over.
I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, and with me as always, our CMP, Command Module Pilot,
Nostromo.
Coming up in today's program, Mining on the Mun, Getting Burned by Eve, and the Department of Kerbal Tourism. It's our progress in the game.
Your letters and tweets in the mission briefing.
And another edition of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals.
The KSP version of The Martian.
Which is aptly called the Martian.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
All right.
This is something I wrote for you.
Oh, really?
You have not seen it yet. And for those of you who have not read The Martian, it is spoiler-free.
Oh, good.
It's in the spirit of The Martian, but it's spoiler-free.
That includes me.
Well, that's partly why.
Yeah.
That's partly why. Do you know who's directing The Martian, by the way? Ridley Scott.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I'll fall for anything Ridley Scott. So.
Yeah. Except for Blade Runner, apparently.
No, I didn't. Hey. I
What?
thought it was good. I just wasn't blown away like you were.
Yeah, that's because I saw it when it was new.
Yeah, and I saw it after things like The Matrix and Inception and all that stuff.
Right,
So it's like,
right.
It's not really mind-blowing because everything's trying to be mind-blowing nowadays.
Right. Well, yeah, I have seen, they've been posting some pictures of The Martian now, Matt Damon, and I mean it, visually the pictures look exactly like what I had in my head when I was reading the book. Mm-hmm. So you have to read the book.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. So how was your week?
It was good. Just working. And I got some Kerbal time in.
Did you?
So, yeah, and I actually had kind of a Kerbal party bus going because I had anywhere between 2 and 4 people watching me.
Real on Steam?
Yeah, on Steam.
Sweet.
Yeah, so
that was a dumb question.
No, they were at my house.
Yeah, they were hanging out at your
They
house.
flew all the way out here. Yeah.
Nos had a cooler full of beer, and
Yeah.
everybody was hanging around and going,
Hey, everybody, who wants to watch me play games on my desktop computer?
sorry, I spilled some beer on your computer. Hey, you got a cute girlfriend.
Actually,
there.
I have a hydro cooling system on a computer that is beer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What do they say? You don't drink, you don't buy beer, you just borrow it.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, tell me about your kerbaling.
So I got on and was it's funny, the moment I booted it up, I had a couple people like Jim 3535 and a couple other people just pop on, and I'm gonna forget somebody's name.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
See, what I always take notes because
Yeah, I meant to, but I was just the heat of the moment. Mm-hmm. And so I was kerbaling, and it's got to be so boring because at the beginning, it'd been a while since I'd really spent a lot of time on it. I'd done a little bit here and there, but I haven't spent a lot of time. Just I had to get back on the bike,
Right.
And so I had to get back on it, and I was having to read what some parts were just to kind of get familiar with it again. Mm-hmm. And it was it had to have been so boring for them because they're watching me just read, reading this and then reading this and then reading this, and I started doing some parts contracts, but they were all landed parts contracts just to make some quick money. So they were watching me launch a craft that just sat at the runway, and I would engage an engine with 0 fuel in it and then come back. So I was like, this has to be torture. I got to do something.
Well, I mean, sir, if there was enough beer involved, I'm sure it was fascinating.
That was probably fascinating. So I started working on some parts testing, and I built some monstrosities. Some of these things are so ugly, but I was getting some decent parts testing going, and some of them were. I don't know if I broke even on some of these. I probably spent more than I made.
Really?
But I was completing them, which was getting me reputation, which was converting into science, and I needed science more than anything else. Mm-hmm. But I did enough of those to unlock. It's weird. You're in this devil's decision, where you're trying to pick the thing that you want versus the thing that you may need versus the other thing you may need. It turns out you need all of it. You just have to pick one. So I was looking for. I had to choose between struts larger fuel tanks because I only had small ones, and an inline cockpit.
You know, I will say, I think that is the mark of a good game, that you're trying to, that you have several attractive options and you're trying to figure out which one would be better.
It's not
at
like,
that moment.
okay, here's the one that I pick and here's the one I pick if I'm stupid. You know, it's like they're...
Well, sometimes with tech trees, and I run into this in Civilization a lot, the Civilization games. A lot of times it's the one that you want, and then there's like 2 or 3 that you just have to have.
Yeah.
Because until you get those, you can't get the stuff you really want. So it's like the one good one and then the 3 ones that you just have to put up with.
Yeah, and those were the 3 options that I was like, these are important. The other ones were batteries and the thermometer, which would have been good for getting more science, which would have gotten me a little bit of science, but I was like, that's not going to get me enough to get me one of the other ones, so I'm going to hold off on it. And then I was like, well, with struts, right now I'm not building anything that needs it that badly. I mean, it's risky, like whenever I have the really large boosters.
Right.
They kind of wobble around a little bit when they're attached to just a decoupler, like a radial decoupler. So I was like, well, you know, I can kind of go without the struts. So I went for the inline cockpit. And the reason why is so I could take tourists with me.
Is that the one that has the big canopy, the big...
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like the second seat in a fighter plane.
Okay.
You know, so it's not the one with the nose. It's just like the additional one.
I like that one because when you get in orbit, you can actually see.
Yeah.
With a lot of the capsules, you know, there's this dinky little window, and you know.
So I used that, and so now I was, instead of using the command pod, I was using the cockpit, and then I was putting 2 inline cockpits behind it to carry tourists with.
Oh, that's, you know, I never even thought of that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, so I was going to carry them with that, and they just wanted to go on suborbitals. So I just was going to put it on a normal rocket. It was just going to have that on it instead. And then I just put radial parachutes in between the windows, so like on the top of it. So it's just going to land like that. Because I could have tried to put wings on it and, you know, landing gear and everything and tried to land it. But I'm landing from a suborbital, so I'm not coming in easy.
Right.
And I just I don't know. I didn't know if it was going to take me over on cost, like if my, you know, profit would have been enough.
Yeah, that was my first thought when you said all that. Was I was kind of mentally tabulating the cost of those extra parts when just parachutes could bring you down.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just go with the parachutes. So what I first tried to do is I was going to put the cockpit, you know, on the top, of course, and then build the rocket and put the inline cockpits on the sides of the rocket. So it was going to be like, you know, 3 next to each other. And I was trying to get that to work. The inline cockpit doesn't really attach to the side of anything. It won't do it. So I was trying to work this out with the guys that were watching me, you know, talking to them, and they were being super helpful.
Right.
You know, and I was like, is there any way to do this? And they're like, well, I mean, you could attach it to a fuel can and then attach the fuel can to the side. And so we're working on that, and we got it going, but I eventually decided the thing was, 1, too ugly, and 2, just, it didn't look like it was going to function and be worth it. You know,
Hey, there's no such thing as ugly in Kerbal. They're all works of art.
Yeah, they're
They may be ungainly, but they're all beautiful.
So I decided against it and just put the 2 inline cockpits behind the main one, which is a lot of height, you know, without actually gaining anything, you know. So it was a Mark III command pod would have been nicer, but that is a lot farther down the tech tree than what I have. So I was like, I'm just going to stick with the inline cockpit.
Okay.
So it's an inline cockpit and the like small, not the tiny, but the small fuel tank, a couple of those. The I don't remember the name of. They all have nicknames now, so they're easier to remember, but not whenever I'm sitting here trying to remember them.
I have a question. Suborbital, are you going high enough to where when you come back down, you're getting into reentry and atmospherics? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you have to go at least like over 70,000 meters.
Okay.
You know? So I was, you know, I had that, and then I put the largest boosters that I had. I think the Thumpers. I'm not sure.
The Thumpers?
You know how there's like the Hammer, which is, okay, there's the Flea, which is the smallest, then there's the Hammer, which is a little bit larger than that, and then I think it's the Thumper, which is the large white tubes. And then there's like the Rokomax ones that are gigantic. It was the Thumper, the one below the Rokomax one.
I love how in the space of one sentence you had me thinking of a Disney cartoon, the Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Yeah.
and Dr. Horrible. Good job.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. So I put 4 of those on there with the couplers, and those are going to be, that was the part I was most worried about. Launching that, I could have put, I had nose cones on them, for the aerodynamics. I could have put Separatrons on them, just sideways, just to propel them away whenever I decoupled. But I would have had to put 2 on each one, which is going to further increase the cost of a part that I won't rescue.
Right.
So it's like I didn't really know if I wanted to do that. So I launched this thing, and the first launch is it goes well so far.
We're having a dog interruption here.
Yeah, I'm getting assaulted by the dog. So I launched this thing.
She says you taste good.
Oh. I'll take your word for it. So I go, I launch this thing, and the thought is whenever the boosters stop, like whenever they run out of fuel, they rock back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
That I was going to decouple whenever they rock back. If I did it when they go forth, they may take my wings out when they fall.
Timed decoupling.
Yeah. So, and I had to have my my engine on full. So if I had my engine on full and I activated it at the same time I decoupled, whenever they go backward, they should all fall away.
Right.
And they did. It worked. So I was able to make it clean. I heard a lot of explosions behind me, but cool guys don't look at explosions, so I didn't. So I make it all the way up, and the tourists are happy, and I start coming down, and I'm like, it takes forever with 2 parachutes on this thing. You're going down to 4 meters a second, so I'm going to wait until it's close, because I just don't. People are watching. I don't want to take forever doing this, and so I'm coming down. And somebody joins, like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, you're just about to see, just about to see Nos land this mission." They're like, "Oh, cool." And I didn't even see it because I was looking the other direction. I hit the side of a mountain. So right when he tunes in, boom, the whole thing explodes. And I'm like, oh.
And the tourists weren't having fun anymore.
So I reverted because I'm a reverter.
Yeah.
So my name is Nos, and I'm a reverter.
You're a repeat reverter.
Yeah. So I do the whole thing again, and it worked. It's kind of fun re-entering, because I had a little bit of fuel. So instead of having my suborbital just come straight down, I angled it a bit, So I still had wings on it, and I was just kind of I was falling with style,
right?
And so I'm coming down, and I pop both of my chutes, and the thing gently lands in the ocean, and I pick them up, and I make my money for it.
I use with the parachutes. I know you don't go for mods because you're trying to do the base experience.
Yeah.
Kerbal Engineer, one of the tabs you can call up is Surface, and it will show you when you it'll tell you down to the second when you're about to hit the surface. And what I'll do is when I'm coming down, I wait until I'm 5 seconds from the surface, and that's when I'll fire my parachute.
Yeah, see, I don't know when because...
you're having it. But before I had Kerbal Engineer, I was doing the same thing you were doing, which is you're guesstimating
because
how much time you
500 meters above the surface, you pop chutes and they'll open. Yeah. Instead of just having them open but not, fully deployed.
If I fire my parachute at 5 seconds before impact, they will open, and then it takes about 10 seconds to land. So... that shaves off a lot of that, just sitting there watching it gently drift,
Yeah, on times 4 speed, just come on.
Have you ever been burned by the 4X on the parachutes? Once in a while, I'll be coming down, and I learned this the hard way. You 4X, and for some reason, it's right when you get to the ground, it's almost like the parachute just disappears or something, and then you slam into the ground and you're gone.
I don't think I've had that issue.
Okay, I haven't had it in a while, but a ways back, that was an issue where if you tried to time accelerate, something would happen, and instead of landing gently, you'd smack into the ground.
Completely eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had that issue.
Okay. So, and it may not be an issue anymore.
Yeah, that's true. So, I land this thing, and my girlfriend had just gotten home, so I was like, sorry guys, girlfriend. And they're like, leave her, And, so, and
the old ball and chain.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, guys, I got to go. And said goodbye to them. This morning before I got here, it's funny, like whenever you get a ship that works, two things happen. One, if you're doing contracts, other contracts like that exist. There were 2 other contracts just like that one that I did, like exact same contract, same payout, same everything. So 2 things came to mind. One, I already have a ship that can do this. So I'm just going to do it again. And then 2, I wonder if I could do it a little bit better. So I noticed what worked and what was just excessive. I had more fuel than I needed, so I cut out some fuel. So the first time that I did it when everyone was watching, I made around 3,000 to 5,000 in profit. No, I think it was just 3. I think I made around 3,000 in profit. After taking out unnecessary fuel tanks, only putting in what I really needed, I was getting around 6,000 to 7,000.
Right.
Extra, because I was just unnecessary fuel expenditure and unnecessary fuel tanks and just putting everything where it needed to go. And I just finding out how little I can get away with doing it with, which I may even skim it even more, because if I can get 10,000 off of it, that would be even better, So I'm tweaking around with that is what I'm going to do, is try to make an efficient tourism vehicle, suborbital tourism vehicle. And then another thing that was kind of fun before I started making that is I was working on parts testing, and I was using we talked last time about the cargo bays, and I was using those and putting things in them. So interesting things like a inline reaction wheel works inside of one of those, which is good because those things are just too small and weird to put on other stuff.
What's nice about the inline reaction wheels is that they will save you a lot of RCS fuel. If you have them on your ship, you can reorient and rotate and do all kinds of things with them and not have to use your RCS.
Yeah.
Which is nice. If you don't have, if you have a ship that has them versus a ship that doesn't, you can really tell the difference between.
So, if you just have one, how effective is that?
Depends on where it is.
If it's just in the middle of the rocket.
If it's part of the balance of the rocket, in other words, if it's centered, center's not the right word. If it's placed correctly, it should be very effective. Now, if it's off to the side or if it's at some weird place where it shouldn't be, then it's not going to be that effective.
So it doesn't give
my experience.
It doesn't give you SAS. I know that. It doesn't give you the ability to use SAS.
Oh, now you're asking the wrong person.
Or does it? Okay. So what does it do? I've always put it on just because I'm like, well, I probably need it,
Well, my understanding, and please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding has always been that it is a stabilization system, but it also allows you to rotate. It allows you to rotate and reorient your craft. It's there for maneuverability.
So if you made a space station and you put one of these on all the different arms of the space station, would it just be really easy to maneuver it? Or
yeah,
okay.
If I understand what you're asking me, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. So I was putting one of those in a cargo bay, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a good way to use that. And if you want to put a mystery good container in, you have to turn off angled symmetry or whatever.
Yeah.
I noticed that, and I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Last week's episode, you know how I've said in the past, sometimes when you're talking, I'm setting something up.
Yeah, and it's hard to hear everything.
Last week, you were reading a letter, and somebody was talking about this. And they were talking about turning off angle, and they were also talking about, if I remember right, they said that there was a mod that you could install that had a cross beam that it added to the service bay that allowed you to attach things. Well, I wasn't listening because I was trying to get whatever was coming up. I was trying to get it set up.
Yeah, the next sound or whatever.
Yeah, and then right after that, there was another letter, and then we started having a conversation about, well, how do you do this in a service bay, and how do you do that in a service bay? And, of course, I'm listening to the episode after we released it, and I had already heard the answer, and then we started having the conversation, and I was going, well, okay.
The crossbar would be nice. It would, because I don't... And I think this is like going to be so small I would notice it, but maybe somebody who is making more balanced things and more technically minded on it.
Yeah.
Whenever I put that mystery goo container in there, if I put it to one side of the cargo bay, like I wonder how much difference it makes on like moving the center of balance.
I can't imagine it would make that much difference.
I can't see it being huge.
The reason I say that is when I build a resource gathering ship, I've noticed that when you install the drill, I thought that putting the drill, because the drill is not one of those parts that obviously you're going to need 4 of them. I mean, you can have 4, and obviously that makes the ore extraction faster, but if you're trying to keep your weight down and if you're trying to keep your costs down, which I don't deal with that in Sandbox, but you don't have. My point is, you don't have to have 4 drill bits. I always wondered if having a single drill on one side of the ship would knock the balance off, and so far I have not noticed any difference.
Oh, cool.
So I can't imagine if that huge drill.
Yeah, I can't imagine one mystery goo container doing that.
Because the mystery goo containers to me, they're like Kerbal thermoses.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't take up a lot of space, and they keep everything nice and insulated.
Yeah. I think the goo it's just really old coffee.
Oh, yeah. So I had, in one of those cargo bays, I needed to test like the big Rokomax parachute. And I had that in there. You can't test it when it's inside there because it doesn't have room to deploy. I thought that was very interesting. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll test it. We'll make sure it opens. And like, no, it actually has to open. And it can't open whenever it's inside the cargo bay. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much the most of it. I'm going to try to tweak that design to make it as cost effective as I can. And I'm pretty sure I have some VIP contracts coming up where I need to take a VIP to an area of Kerbin. And so I'm going to start working on, with the cockpit, and I have wheels and I got wings, so making some sort of makeshift planes and, carting them around.
Now, since I don't do career, VIP, you actually have VIP contracts?
Yeah, it's where you have to, it's kind of like the tourism contracts. You just have to take on a passenger and take them somewhere, So I need to take that VIP. Now, this is what I don't like. So there's a contract for taking 2. There's a contract for taking 1. They pay out the same amount. So taking that VIP is going to pay out like 13,000
credits, I guess.
Yeah, 13,000 funds. Well, if I take the 2, I get 13,000 apiece. So it's pretty much 13,000 a head.
Okay.
So why would I take the contract that only gives me 1? Especially if I take the same rocket, it's only 1 part difference, 1 less inline cockpit.
Right.
Unless they have somebody else has some sort of rocket that is cheaper, like pretty much half the cost. I don't know. So I'm just going to cancel all the VIP ones where it pays out the same. If I see any that pay more, I'll take those. But I might as well take 2 people if I'm taking 1.
Did I mention my psychic abilities?
No, you didn't.
I have the ability to see the future.
Oh.
Do you know what I see in the future?
Us being told in the letter that there's a reason?
Yes.
Yeah.
I see in the
future. Well, that's it for my progress. So what's up with you?
You know what I think's funny is you prefaced your progress by saying, basically this was, boring progress. My progress is boring.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time I had progress, I think I was saying, I had all these adventures and all this great stuff was going on. This week's progress is just kind of like, well, I kind of did this and I kind of did that. And,
yeah.
I was still, do you remember I had the problem with Eve where I sank in and it dislodged my engine bells? So
yeah.
I redesigned the ship to where the landing legs were further out, whatever. It would raise the engine bells up. These are the kind of things that just boggle the mind. Okay. I made a slight alteration to the ship so that the landing legs extended out just a little bit further.
Yeah.
That's all I did. The same ship that had gone to Eve before and had entered the atmosphere and had landed on the ground.
Yeah.
Now, after that one tiny little alteration, will no longer enter Eve's atmosphere, without overheating and blowing up the parachutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every time.
Every stinking time.
Have you tried spinning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was spinning I was spinning like a tilt-a-whirl.
Yeah.
And every time the parachutes would blow up. And, anything attached to it would blow up. And, I'm just going, what did I do? All I did was kind of extend out the landing legs a little bit. But the exact same ship now will not enter Eve's atmosphere without blowing up the parachutes.
Huh.
You got me.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
I also discovered another thing. You have described in the past sandwich time, which is where you just let the game run.
Yeah, while you're doing something. Yeah.
While you're doing something else.
Yeah.
I don't typically do that very often, but I had been messing around trying to get down to Eve for a long time. And, we got a dog toy squeak. Okay, we got another dog.
Yes.
We're getting multiple dog toy squeaks.
Yeah. I don't even know what that is. All right, keep going.
I had been trying this over and over, and every single time I was losing the ship. Okay, and I finally, how you get to a point where it's just not fun anymore, and you just kind of, I got to stop.
Yes,
I was at that point. But I did not want to, I know this sounds so lazy, but I really didn't want to I didn't want to exit the game.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to, this sounds so stupid. I didn't want to go through the process of exiting the game. And, I had it set to where.
So many buttons.
There's too many buttons, man. No, I had it set to where the periapsis was just barely touching the atmosphere, and I was making multiple passes to bring my apoapsis down. Okay, and I thought, I'm just going to leave the game running, and I'm going to just let it naturally bring down the apoapsis, and I'm going to go, I'm going to get like a nice hot bath going, and I'm going to soak in the nice hot bath, and I'm going to read a book, and I'm going to come back in an hour or whatever, and I'm going to have this nice, perfect little orbit.
Yeah.
Right? That's when I discovered you can't leave Eve alone. Because it was every time I would cross my periapsis, it would bring my apoapsis down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay? And just a rough guesstimate told me that at this rate, it would take several hours before the apoapsis came down enough to where the ship would be in any kind of trouble. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently 2 seconds after I walked away, the ship just immediately cratered into Eve.
Yeah.
Because I came back in, I think it was like an hour later, I came back in and I was thinking, gee, I wonder how far down my apoapsis is. And there's that, that error message, that message you get on the screen after your ship has crashed.
Yeah.
Where it's, this slammed into the ground, and this slammed into the ground, and this slammed into the ground, and revert back to space station, and, or space center. And that's what I had. So, word of advice, you cannot leave Eve unattended. Because she will reach out and grab ships. It is Scylla and Charybdis.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, so yeah, that was that. I went back and I did another redesign of that same ship. But this time, it has got heat shields on it. And it's got, I redesigned it to where it's supposed to be more Eve tolerant. I have yet to test it because for some reason, my little goofy pea brain got sidetracked and I started thinking, hey, I wonder what it would be like to create a refinery refueling station and, have like this automated whatever and blah, blah, blah. And of course, I test everything on the MUN. So now that's what I'm doing is I'm messing around creating an orbiting refinery. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to make an automated lander that goes down, collects ore, comes back, and then it processes it and it fills the fuel tanks in orbit around another body. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
One thing, and I don't think this is possible within the game, and it would be a different game if they were able to do this. But there's one thing that I kind of wish for in Kerbal. I have talked in the past about playing X3. Mm-hmm. I'll be on Prelude. One of the things you can do in X3 is you can buy automated trading ships, and you can buy automated miners and things like that. And what you do is you have to buy and install the automation systems, okay? But you can create automated trading networks, and then you can just leave it alone.
Yeah.
You can go find a nice quiet little corner and just park your ship and just sit there and time accelerate and just watch the Mazuma come rolling in. You know, I mean, you can just sit there and time accelerate and watch the money just start to pile up.
Yeah.
It would be nice if, and again, I'm saying this kind of changes the game if you think about it. But wouldn't it be kind of cool if you could create, like, for example, put a storage tanker, like a fuel tanker, in orbit around Duna, and create an automated lander that goes down, mines the ore, comes back, delivers it, and then goes back down and gets more ore.
Yeah.
And it does it completely automated. Because the way it is right now, even if you're using MechJeb, for example, you have to have that ship selected.
Yeah.
I think this gets into, you know how when an object gets outside, you remember how we had that big conversation about physics bubbles? Mm-hmm. I think this is why I'm saying I don't even know if it's possible. I think what happens is once a ship gets outside of that bubble, I don't think it
is able to do automated tasks like that produce those kind of results.
Right.
You know, things can pretty much just orbit.
Well, you know, we had talked before. I don't know if you've run into this or not, but when you're re-entering, let's say you're re-entering Kerbin. If you let's say you're coming in, and let's say the atmosphere is causing you to deorbit rapidly.
Yeah.
If you decouple and your debris moves away from you far enough, the atmosphere stops working on it. Whereas, in other words, if you decouple and it's not already coming into the ground, if it gets far enough away from you, the atmosphere stops working on it, apparently.
Yeah.
And what happens is the debris, which should have come down on its own because of the atmosphere, instead just goes into orbit, okay? Because it's outside of your bubble. I think because of that, you could not have another ship somewhere in the game automated doing things outside of your, I keep saying the word bubble, but I think that's, I don't think you could have an automated ship.
Yeah.
Doing anything other than orbit.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe if there were mods to do it or something, but still, I think you would have to be active on the ship in order to get it. You know, at least, if not active, then you had to be flying it.
Yeah.
But not actually flying it.
And if I'm wrong, please somebody correct me.
That'd be a cool thing to be wrong on.
Yeah.
You know?
But my understanding is that you could not, the game would not allow you to have an automated ship. Like, you couldn't have an automated refinery going around Duna while you're back at Kerbin. Mm-hmm. And when I say automated, I mean you couldn't have like an automated lander going back and forth and delivering. And I mean, because the refinery itself would probably be running.
Yeah.
But as soon as it ran out of ore, that would be the end of that. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So anyway, it would be nice if we could do that.
Yeah, and it would also have to like know whenever it's full and stuff. So,
one other thing I wanted to give Squad props on.
It may be something possible with Chaos though, from what some of them have been doing with it. But yeah, keep going.
I thought about Chaos and I thought about MechJab, but again, it makes me wonder: do you have to have the ship selected?
Yeah, no, that's true.
I hope somebody answers this question.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to give Squad props on, with the refinery, with the resource gathering, they were smart enough to where they made it where when you land and you start drilling for ore, you can time accelerate, and it continues to collect ore.
Yeah, and that's good. So you don't have to just like sit there and
watch water
boil.
Yeah. Because otherwise, what you would have is, Because, some of it takes days and days and days.
Yeah, it's watching paint dry.
Yeah. Can you imagine having to just sit there?
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fact, because a lot of the ships I've noticed, and you've seen this, like if a ship is tumbling and you hit time acceleration, immediately freezes. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that operate in the game, the minute you time accelerate, they all stop.
Yeah, they go to some static position.
It was good that
Yeah, definitely.
they allowed resource gathering to be something that actually operates at high speed. So otherwise, you would be spending like a month in game time sitting on the mun.
Yeah.
Gathering resources. But anyway, that's my boring progress for the week. For some reason,
a lot of cool ideas came out of it, though.
Yeah.
So.
For some reason, moving my landing legs.
Yeah, just that little bit threw everything off.
Why?
I don't know, but I will say that your landing leg thing gets talked about quite a bit in the letters.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously, though, it's weird that just moving them just a little bit caused such a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so that's it. That's my progress for the week.
First stage expended. Second stage. The mission briefing.
And that means it's time for your tweets and letters. Let's start with the letters. Biff, take it away.
Okay, tell me if I'm pronouncing this right. Anonymous?
Yeah, sure, that's probably right.
Okay.
Let's go with it.
There's a story behind that, right? Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Hi, Biff and Nos. This is from Anonymous. If people are sending in play modes, I guess I will contribute. I use kettlewell mode. You know what? I haven't had a chance to use this in a while. I'm going to. You ready?
Hardcore Kerbal with BBK. If you're not playing extreme, you're weak.
All right.
As much work as you put into it, you deserve to get to use it one more time.
Do you know, I sent a copy of that to Amy.
Yeah.
I imagine she's probably got that on her alarm clock in the morning. It's like...
Hardcore Kerbal with BBK.
And then
It's time to wake up.
It's time to wake up. Okay, I use kettlewell mode, but with one change, no real solar system, and I use a mod called 64K in its place. If you haven't heard of 64K, it is a branch of real solar system that is way better. I have not heard of 64K. In KSP, all the planets are about 1/10 the size of real planets, and the rocket parts are about 64% the size and power of real rockets. So, 64K scales up the Kerbal system to match the scale of Kerbal rockets, giving KSP similar difficulty to real life. Anyways, that's how I play KSP. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I never thought of matching those two, but that's a good idea. I'm going to look for that. 64K is the mod. I love it. Insert sign off here. Anonymous. Yes, I am the same Anonymous from a few episodes. Okay, I will use a Z at the end instead of an S. Insert sign off message here. Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Okay, so that was the story behind Anonymous. Yeah. Let's see. Next letter is you.
Sinking in on Eve by Matthias G. Hi, Biff and Nos. The described problem of spaceship Voyager about the half-sinking legs is well known to me. Maybe you remember I was the guy describing using the mod HyperEdit to teleport any vessel to any foreign planet to test its design. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yep.
I found out that the regular airplane landing gear works very well to land any kind of craft, and it does not sink into Eve's upper soil layer. Thus, you will not dislodge the engine bell. The solution is unconventional, and in my opinion, cannot be intended by Squad. I'm very proud of you, Biff, that you did not fully give up on Eve yet. Keep on fighting. You will be even more proud once you best the hardest of all planets. Cheers, Matthias.
You know what? He's what they call a facilitator. I'm in this horrible relationship with Eve.
Yeah.
And he's on the sideline going, no.
Just use the airline legs.
Keep at it.
Yeah, just use. So yeah, if you use the wheels or
that's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that, especially now that they have the ones that drop down. Mm-hmm. I realize that landing legs fold down, but I think he's talking about the ones that are more like airplane wheels. Where they've got the four wheels on the little sled, the little scooter, whatever. Yeah. But anyway, that's a good idea though, because do you remember I told you that before they came out with 1.0, remember I told you I was landing rovers like manned rovers on the Mun.
Yeah.
And I was driving around and finding all the Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things I noticed was, you could actually land one of those things on their legs.
Yeah.
I mean, not on their legs, on their wheels.
Yeah.
Touch down and then just immediately start rolling. It was fun. So
the one thing you got to do is you got to make sure your parking brake is on, because otherwise you'll start rolling.
Yeah, that's no matter how level it looks, you're going to start rolling.
Yeah.
You need to check tweets, by the way. Somebody sent in a link to a YouTube video.
Oh, I saw that one.
Rollies.
Yeah, with the sparks.
Yeah, with rollies.
I saw it and I was like, yeah. It was kind of a wide design for a rollie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was going to make turning a little bit hard, but I mean, I see where they were going.
That tickles me that you have started this whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the minute, because he said, this is NOS, or he said, this must be NOS.
Yeah, and I was watching, I was like, I don't see it. Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. The minute I saw that, I went, yep, that's NOS. Okay. Let's see. Next letter comes to us from Stephen D. Hey, NOS Biff, congratulations. I just got married in November, too. Super exciting news. Hey, congratulations.
Hey.
I found out why I was losing control for my crafts when reaching curb and escape. It's A, a bug, or B, I have some form of retardation within the Kerbal universe where I would somehow select something, maybe a target within the mapping screen. This would cause me to not be piloting the vessel anymore. All I ended up having to do was right-click the capsule and click Control Vessel, and I could regain control. Funny thing is, my first burn back missed with no spare fuel. Try F9, you say? Well, the last quick save was so far back that I just restarted the game. A real bummer, but I'm still going to chip away at it. What was the, didn't somebody say that if you Alt F9 will bring up the saves where you can go back and select an auto save?
Yeah, that's a while back, but I think that was it.
Yeah. That was a good suggestion, and I have not used it since for some bizarre reason. So that's weird.
It'll only make things better for you. So
yeah,
why would you want that?
I guess so. To add insult to injury, I was literally injured, problem with my back, when this happened. Then I dislocated my shoulder on Monday. That makes it hard to Kerbal. Is he playing this like in the middle of a boxing ring or something? Seriously, if you play with the mouse in your right hand, try to do everything with your left hand only. No, I've tried. Nothing works. Happy Kerbaling, fellows. Stephen D. Oh, I should mention the name of the letter was Woe Is Me. Yeah, I would say.
This comes from Blue K. Eve is a harsh mistress. Biff and Nos, listening to the last cast, and I had an idea about why Biff's landing gear sank and dislodged the engines. Eve's surface gravity is 1.7 that of Kerbin, and the craft would have gained quite a bit of weight from the ore being mined and the fuel being refined, probably enough to sink the ship even lower. I'd suggest adjusting the landing gear or locking the suspension after the ship lands. Congrats to Biff on the nuptials. Happy Kerbaling, Blue K.
That's a good suggestion. I wonder, because I wasn't paying that much attention when I landed. I didn't notice if the engine bells dislodged at that point.
Yeah, at what point they did.
That is a good idea that maybe after I landed, maybe collecting the ore, because I have noticed that changes delta V and it changes mass. It actually changes the
it could cause
configuration of your craft.
And wait, have you tried locking the suspension on the legs?
No, I have not.
Okay, yeah, because there's the dip down from the suspension. So
really,
yeah, so maybe it dipped down and dislodged it, and when it came back up, it was fine.
Okay, I just had a light bulb moment.
You think that's it?
Well, not that was it, but I have always seen. You know how you see things, but you never, you never think about how to use them. Mm-hmm. I've always seen lock suspension, but it's never connected in my brain.
Why would I? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Okay. Note to self: next time I land and mine, lock suspension first.
There you go.
Good suggestion. Wow. You know, between Blue K and Nos, you guys have been very helpful. Thank you. Next letter. This comes from Christopher G., also known as Acronymus. Okay. Wow. I love the title. Stuff that came to my mind at around midnight. Doesn't that sound like it should be a poem?
Always.
stuff that came to my mind around midnight. While I pondered late at night, do I want the burrito or should I stay tight? I don't know. Okay.
Stop looking at me. Read the letter.
Read the letter. When you guys talked about books, one author came to my mind, Alastair Reynolds, who is a hard sci-fi writer. I personally really enjoyed his Revelation space series, which contains 5 books set from the near future to a very distant one. As I never actually got around to read The Martian, I can't really compare them. I have read Pushing Ice by Alastair Reynolds, and I have read The Martian. The Martian is very much an adventure story that takes place not in a real world environment. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is very much, I'm stranded on Mars. I'm going to use all the science knowledge I have and survive.
Like a man versus wild kind of thing.
Right. Pushing Ice and the Revelation books are much more sci-fi.
Yeah.
In that they deal with other worlds and other species and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they're very, very good. Alastair Reynolds, if you recall, I had recommended a ways back Pushing Ice.
Yeah.
Very good book. And yes, I have the Revelation books. They are next on my reading list. Additionally, I saw a Reddit thread that mentioned that Bill should be a scientist, as in Bill Nye, and Bob should be an engineer, like Bob the Builder. A missed opportunity there. Homer to your mobile, Acronymus. Did you see there was a news article this past week? John Scalzi, author of Old Man's War.
Yeah.
Just signed a deal, what is it? And I may be wrong on the details, but if I remember right, it's $3.5 million to write, is it 10 books in 15 years or 15 books in 10 years? And Alastair Reynolds had just signed a deal that was like $1.2 million to write 10 books over 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was like both of them were record-breaking. If I remember right, both of them were record-breaking deals, and that's why they got mentioned.
Wow.
But it's
well,
funny.
good for them.
Yeah, really. Well, I mean, they're both unbelievably talented writers.
Yeah, yeah.
I told you, when I read Pushing Ice, I didn't read the book so much as just kind of live it for a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so well realized.
Yeah.
I want to toss out, we have the unofficial Kerbalcast book club. I want to toss out another one for the pile. I kind of accidentally started reading this. I had, stop making that face.
Mm-hmm. Like, did you just fall over? And
it's like I tripped and started reading the book.
Yeah.
No, I've read 2 books this week. First book I read was Sycamore Row by John Grisham. And when I finished it, I was thinking, okay, what do I want to read next? And I was kind of thumbing through some of the alternatives, some of the choices. And there's a book I have, and I got it at that library sale I mentioned.
Yeah.
But it's Jack Campbell, and it's The Lost Fleet. It's a series, and the first book in the series is called Dauntless. And I thought, okay, I've kind of been wanting to read this because it looks like very space opera-ish. And I started reading, and before I knew it, I was 3 chapters in. That's what I mean by I accidentally started reading it, because I was trying to decide if I wanted to read it or not. And by the time I realized that I was 3 chapters in, I was so far in that it was like, okay, I've already made such a dent in this book. I'm going to keep reading it.
Have I told you what I do when I go book shopping?
What?
I in order to see if I'll like the book, I sit down with it. It takes a while for me to go book shopping.
It sounds like it.
I sit down and I'll read the first chapter. Mm-hmm. And the last sentence of the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And if I can figure out what's happening, or like I get the gist of it, I won't read it. So it's like I'll read the very first chapter of the book and then the very last sentence of the entire book.
So what if the last sentence is, and the killer was the butler?
Then I know that I don't want to read it.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like, if it's going to give it away in the last sentence, I don't want to read it. If everything that I need to know I find out in the first chapter and it's all given away in the last one, then I don't want to bother reading the whole book. Even if it would be a decent journey, it's not going to hold enough for me to be satisfied with the ending. So first chapter and last sentence. And every time it's worked out for me.
Please tell me you go book shopping by yourself.
I do.
Okay.
Like, I don't take anyone with me because I'm like, you're going to be waiting forever.
I was going to say, I can imagine some poor soul, like 4 hours later going, are you done yet?
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, if they're really long chapters, I won't. I'll just read a couple pages. Mm-hmm. But I'll still always do the last sentence thing.
That was my next thing. I was going to say, if I was with you while you were book shopping, there's two things I would look for. Books with very short first chapters.
Yeah.
And very short last lines.
Yeah, very vague last lines. Hey, Slaughterhouse-Five was a great one for that. Because, like, you don't... Yeah.
So it goes.
Yeah, poo to tweet.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's the last line.
Yeah.
Po to eat.
Yeah.
The bird. Yeah, I will, for the Kerbalcast book club, Jack Campbell, The Lost Fleet, Dauntless. I am, I'd say 80% of the way through. Absolutely loving it.
Good.
And it's one of those books that it starts in media res. I mean, it literally starts as in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
There's no build up to the good part. It starts with the good part.
Awesome.
So and another thing I will say that I really like about this book, and I think this may be more from a Kerbal point of view, the book makes an effort towards dealing with real world physics. Mm-hmm. The spaceships, this is kind of a military sci-fi. I mean, this is a fleet and they have command structure and the whole bit, but the way the ships operate, they don't operate like they're in an ocean or in the air.
Yeah.
They don't move in straight lines. When they want to engage the enemy, they alter their orbits to intersect. When they come into solar systems, they fall into solar systems. When all of the information, all of the intelligence that they get, like, for example, when another fleet enters the system they're in, it is, okay, they're 2 light hours away, so what we're seeing is 2 hours old.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. When they fire missiles, the missiles are not in a straight line at the other ship. It is, we're going to fire something and we're going to arrange it to where it intersects the other object on its current path at a certain point. So there is an attempt at making real-world physics in this story.
Yeah.
Which is very unusual. Most books kind of go with the Star Trek model, which is everything moves in straight lines, and when you fire something, it goes in a straight line, and everything's on the same plane.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough of that. But I do recommend the Jack Campbell. So far, I'm really now, unless the last 20% of the book is horrible.
Yeah. Got to read that last line.
Yeah. Got to read that last line. And the killer was the butler.
And it was all a dream. Oh, okay. Not doing that. Like if I wrote books, I would always make the last line something like that.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the entire story.
And it was all a dream.
Yeah, just like something.
So it goes.
So anyone who has this awful process that I do to find books would be like, these suck. These are just awful.
I thought the whole point was to get people to read.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't get something like I wouldn't get Scalzi's Deal.
Yeah. The NOS School of How Not to Be an Author.
Yeah,
Write a terrible last line.
The Kilgore Trout School of Writing.
Do you know that, I don't know if you know this, do you know there is actually a Kilgore Trout book?
Yeah.
Venus on the Half Shell? Have you read it?
No, but I know of it.
I read it a long time ago.
Good.
It was, I mean, at the time it was good. I mean, it was exactly what you would expect a Kilgore Trout novel to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true. I had heard, supposedly, at the time, people were saying that it was written by Philip Jose Farmer. I don't know if that's true. I'll have to, now that I've mentioned it, I'm going to have to look it up. But yeah, there is an actual Kilgore Trout book.
Just watch the next letter is going to be about digressions or something.
Yeah, really. It'd be like, no, actually, yeah, this is the awesome power of rockets.
And another thing. Hey, space nerds, this episode came out just in time to cure my boredom for the day. Biff, congrats on the marriage.
Thank you.
Nos, commiserations on the work hours ramping up. Yeah. On the topic of sinking into Eve's surface, you guys are overthinking things just a bit. What the Dark Lord Biff is experiencing is the phenomenon that is the difference between the rendered world and the collision mesh. The sinking probably didn't wreck your engine as much as the landing leg suspension compressed under the weight of your lander.
That's what you said.
If I'm going to be tight on space under my craft, I lock the suspension to prevent, hopefully, such an event from crippling my spaceship. Sure, it doesn't always work, but it might just save the mission. I'm still largely restricted to the Kerbin system with a couple ships in transit to Duna. This time around, I'm playing the slow game and making tons of Kerbucks, completing contracts while resisting the urge to time warp too far. Most of my playtime at the moment is during the morning coffee, so my career progression is running at a snail's pace. I'm looking forward to the day I've finished my studies, as the pick is in sore need of an upgrade. Pick?
Yeah, as my pick.
Oh, as my pick is in sore need of an upgrade.
I guess like his user pick. Or
Oh,
something.
yeah. Cheers, the awesome power of rockets.
You know, I've said this many times. We do not choose the order of our letters.
Yeah.
2 letters ago, Blue K and you
Well, I mean, really.
both talked about locking suspension and
Yeah.
sinking in.
I just kind of repeated what he said, but yeah, it's cool.
I wanted to give him a shout out.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And, you know, I wanted to make you feel good. You know,
Oh,
like,
okay.
like you're contributing.
Yeah. See, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that's funny that, you know, again,
Yeah, it
the
gets
letters
answered,
have lined up. Yeah, again, they've lined up. Let's see. Next letter is from Christopher T. He actually signed it Chris, but I thought to myself, if I said Chris T, it's going to sound like Christy.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
So Christopher T. Hey, Biff and Nos. I've been listening to your cast for some time now, but this is the first time I'm writing in. Overall, you both are very entertaining to listen to. I was going back through the last couple of casts, and I noticed something you said, Biff, about having to constantly keep yourself aligned on retro during re-entry. A suggestion that works for me is keeping your pod or capsule aligned on retro when your nav ball switches from orbit to surface. When this occurs, turn SAS off and enjoy the ride down to the surface. Interesting. I would have never thought of that. No need to make corrective adjustments. I think you just need to get the initial re-entry angle correct when you start hitting atmosphere. Otherwise, you're toast. Anyway, keep up the good work. Fly hard, but not too hard, or you'll crash. Chris T. I would rather be toast than a Dark Lord. Did you notice the last letter
Yeah.
called me a Dark Lord?
Yeah.
I'm a Dark Lord of the Sith.
From Jonathan C. Hello. Hello, Biff and Nos. First, I want to thank you for the awesome podcast you guys produce. I guess I need to do a mission briefing that I can summarize in one word. Eve. During the last podcast, when you guys were talking about putting KSP on a console, at first I thought it was a terrible idea. I could not see what a console could bring to the game. But then, while taking the train back home from work, I started thinking about how awesome it would be to have a version of KSP on the go. Not a smartphone version, but a version on the Nintendo 3DS. Just imagine all the possibilities using 2 screens and the touchscreen. One thing, seeing your ship fly while the others show all the data you need, the touchscreen while building, and I'm really curious what your opinion would be about it. And to finish, here's a mod recommendation. Contract Pack Anomaly Surveyor. This is a contract pack that gives contracts to go search out the various Easter eggs that are included in KSP. It's like having a checklist to Easter eggs that one needs to visit. Fly dangerously safe, Jonathan C. And he says, don't forget to pronounce the accents in my name. And that's funny because we don't say last names, so all those accent marks, we just happen to fly straight by. Jonathan.
You know, he mentioned the 3DS. I was thinking, because I have a PS Vita,
Yeah.
when I mentioned the console, that's exactly what I was thinking, was knowing that the console version is going to be a stripped-down version of the game itself.
It would have to be massively stripped down to fit on something like that, to the point to where it's like, you really probably wouldn't have the whole solar system, you'd just have like the Mun and Minmus.
I would like to, because even though I game on a laptop, and laptops are technically portable, it's like a 15-pound laptop. So, I mean, it's not that portable.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to have a consoleized version of KSP on a PS Vita, or a 3DS. The only thing about the 3DS, Nintendo has never put a whole lot into their graphics.
Yeah.
No, I rephrase. Starting with, because they used to, like the GameCube, had phenomenal graphics.
Yeah, it did. It did.
When they got into the Wii and the DS, they really kind of scaled back on the graphics.
Yeah. They're like gameplay over graphics.
I think, didn't Nintendo, I don't know that they ever officially said this, but didn't they kind of go, Sony and Microsoft are really pushing the graphics, so we're going to go, we're not going to try and fight that battle?
No, but I don't know. But I could see that definitely being their strategy, because that's, if it isn't, they're doing an awful job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their graphics game's pretty subpar if that's what they're going for.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo, because the PS2, PS3, and PS4, and then the Xbox, Xbox 360, and now the Xbox One, each one has really ramped up the graphics.
Yeah.
Whereas Nintendo, starting with the Wii and then the 3DS, really started ramping down the graphics. So, I this is off to the side, but the problem I have had with Nintendo's strategy for the Wii was I thought that in the long run, it was not a good idea. In the short term, you could not buy a Wii. You couldn't find them.
Yeah.
Remember?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
The problem with the Wii in the short term was they went after the casual gamer. Well, the casual gamer is going to buy a handful of party games and then pretty much stop.
Yeah.
The core audience that you really want for any console is the hardcore gamer. And the reason I say that is you want somebody that's in that store or buying games every week or every month. But you want somebody who's buying a lot of games. The Wii, I think, hit mass saturation, I guess, within a fairly, I won't say quick, because I think it took about a year or so.
Yeah, a short span.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, they made money hand over fist for a while. But the audience they got was the casual gamer, which only bought a handful of games. So once you sold the system to them and once they bought a couple of games, you pretty much topped out that gamer.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I don't run gaming companies. Okay, last letter comes to us from J. Arthur. Hello, Biff and Nos. I'm all caught up on the podcast and thought I'd share some feedback with you guys.
It was a table hit.
I was going to say.
Like hit my knee.
Our very first table hit.
Yeah. No, because there's the time you're hitting your head against it.
Oh. That's funny. Yeah, that was not a mic hit. That was a table hit. He actually bumped the table. What I like about your podcast. Number one, show length. I love the length of your podcast and how it's become longer over time. Personally, I won't listen to a podcast that is regularly less than an hour in length or more than 3 hours in length. You guys are typically right in the sweet spot at about 2 hours or so. This is probably the most personal comment I have, since I have no real reason for this critique other than that's the way I like it. Number two, presenter attitude. While this mostly applies to Biff and Nos, it can also be said for every guest host you have had so far. Everyone seems intelligent, open-minded, respectful, and fun-loving. You have good thoughts and conversations about a wide variety of topics, and never once have you went off on one another angrily. Yet at the same time, everyone is able to joke and have a good time. If we're not having a good time, there's no point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been my thought. Number three, nature of the show. The show itself is lighthearted and fun, yet at the same time is always teaching me about new things. I learned a lot about space history, aerodynamics, physics, movies, books, and more from the show due to the wide variety of topics you discuss, which also leads me to compliment you on the variety that goes into the show. You could probably have a solid and successful podcast that focused solely on KSP, but the fact that you guys talk about other topics adds to a variety of the podcast to help keep it interesting and entertaining. I also greatly value that you keep it family friendly. While I personally don't have anything against swearing, it's nice to have some content that I can listen to that I won't have to pause if my son walks into the room. Yeah, we've always tried to...
Yeah, make it, to where you could have your kids in the car when you listen in or something.
I think, didn't I tell you that was what I was shooting for, was I wanted something that, somebody could listen to while they were driving and the kids were in the back seat. Mm-hmm. We've kind of casually used radio rules.
Yeah.
If you can say it on the radio. So, number four, community support. While I'm new enough that I haven't had the chance to interact with you guys yet on Steam, there are repeated mentions in the podcast that you hang out with members of the audience. That is very cool. And a lot of internet celebrities, regardless of whether or not you consider yourself celebrities, don't take the time to do that. I don't consider myself a celebrity.
No, an active community member, a community contributor, maybe.
Goofball with a podcast.
That's true.
Plus, you constantly read letters from listeners, write back to them, and generally encourage all manner of discussion on your show with the listeners. That's a big deal. and I'm not aware of any other gaming podcast that does that. Finally, as a cherry on top, you have brought in community members like Amy to participate on your show. That's beyond cool. And as a fan, I appreciate that. It makes me feel like I could achieve the same one day if I have a good enough contribution to the show. I don't think of myself as a celebrity. I mean, I've said this many times. The only reason we're doing this podcast was because I went looking for a Kerbal podcast.
Yep, somebody's got to do it.
And when I found that there wasn't one, that's when I decided to go ahead and do it. Our focus has always been community. I don't want this show to be about Biff. I don't want this show to be about Nos. I want this show to be a community hub. And I think it is so nice. We know that Squad listens to us. Mm-hmm. I think it is so nice that you and I talk about the game. The game developers can listen to how we play the game and make adjustments, or maybe that gives them some ideas. People can write in and tell us what they think, and the game developers are listening.
Yeah.
We have kind of accidentally created this little community, and that's what I was shooting for. I'm not trying to be a celebrity. So anyway, and I will say also, to anybody listening, if you want to contribute, we love it. Mm-hmm. Contribution can be a letter, it can be an audio letter, it can be a tutorial, anything. We love it, and we really appreciate it. Well, enough gushing. Now to get to the things I don't like. Number 1, interruptions. I never.
What does he mean by that?
I knew you were going to do that. I knew it. I never realized how much you guys talk over one another until I started transcribing episodes for Ascalon. Then I really noticed it. A lot. A whole lot. It is funny sometimes, but other times it just gets in the way. We're trying not to interrupt each other. Can I let him in on some behind the scenes trivia? Nos and I have actually worked out a series of hand signals. Mm-hmm. We point at each other when it's time for...
When it's like, hey, you need to take it. I'm about to finish.
Yeah. Also, if one of us is talking and the other one wants to say something, we hold up our hand.
Yeah.
You know, like we raise our hand.
Every now and then you have something stupid you really want to say that only works in that moment. Yeah. So, like, you'll interject with it. But for the most part, we're trying to take our turns when we talk. We have tried very hard to develop a system of hand signals that we can utilize. And the other thing... And again, I have apologized for this in the past. I'm going to apologize again. I am a motor mouth. And I have told Amy this. I have told Nos this. Anybody who's ever on the show with me, I always tell them the same thing. Don't let me run off at the mouth. Because I will. Yeah. If you give me half a second, this would turn into the Biff Aldrin show. Yeah.
So because I will talk and talk and talk.
Yeah, so we try to rein each other in now and then because, like, one of us can get on a ramble or something. And we really have to do that with our digressions because whenever we first started, we said, okay, we can digress, but we can't, like, go 2 steps away.
Right.
We can take 1 step away where it can, like, still weave in and out of being Kerbal related. Mm-hmm. But if we take another step away and we start digressing from our digression, we have to rein it in as soon as possible.
Yeah. There was this was one that when Amy sat in with me several episodes back, I released the episode, and then a couple of days later, I released an edited version of it.
Yeah.
It was because I did exactly that. I digressed, and then I digressed, and then I digressed, and I digressed again. And I sat down and timed it, and it was like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was just shaking my head going, this is not Kerbalcast.
You'll notice, like, whenever you're in a conversation, you'll start to, you'll talk about something, and you may not even finish that conversation because something else gets mentioned, and you want to, start talking about that before you forget about it. And then during that, something else gets mentioned, and you're so many steps away from where you originally started. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been in conversations where, like, how did we get on this? Like, how did we end up talking about, space planes? It's like, oh, well, we were originally talking about, what brand of socks we like to wear.
And that naturally led to space planes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I will say, Nos and I have an agreement that we are completely equal. I am his director and he is my director.
Yeah, so we have to rein in each other's content and say, hey, you're going too far with that, or like dial it back a bit.
Again, I will say I could not do this podcast without you.
Oh, well, the sentiment's the same.
Thank you.
You own all the equipment.
That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why I can't do the podcast without him. Because he comes up with stuff like that. And sometimes, again, I'm doing things and I'm not always hearing. Mm-hmm. And I'll go back and listen to the podcast later and you'll say things and I'll just, what?
That's about most I have is snark.
Yeah.
Like really beyond that, like, oh, anyone who's seen my stream, knows that's what I bring. It's not mad.
Now you are talking
rocketry
about,
skills.
You're talking about your video game stream, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Back to the letter, and these are the things he doesn't like. Number 2, tutorials, or should I say, lack thereof. You have had segments before, and still do, where you have someone explaining something in the game. Most recently, that has been planes and space planes. These segments are great. However, there are so many more things that could be covered in the game. Again, I know I just said this, but again, folks, if you have an area of expertise and you think you could contribute a tutorial, we'd love it. We had gotten so many requests for space planes, and thank the Lord for Freetoss.
Yeah, definitely.
Although, did I tell you I absolutely hate him right now? Freetoss, I'm so sorry, but I hate you. I really, truly hate you right now.
He was so helpful to me whenever he was watching.
I know.
And what I really like is that he was not intrusive. He was like, hey, just ask. He was willing to watch me completely fail and every now and then throw in a suggestion. And then at times, I would ask him a question. Instead of having somebody going on there like, no, you're doing this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. He was just like, I'm going to watch and just chill out. And if you need me, let me know.
Well, do you want to know why I hate him?
Because he watched my stream instead of yours?
No.
Oh, okay.
Now, you know how much effort I have put into making a space plane. Last week's episode, he put up a space plane for people to use as part of his tutorial.
Yeah.
So I download the thing and I start using it. And within 2 seconds, I'm off the ground and I am going straight up right into orbit. This thing is perfect.
It's a work of art.
It is. I mean, it is a work of art space plane.
Yeah.
It is so efficient and so well done. And he's even going, it's not the best plane. It's not the best space plane I ever did.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, your space plane works. Mine can barely get off the ground. And when they do, they tumble back into the atmosphere and explode.
Yeah.
And then you create this little work of art and then just send it out here. Everybody use it. Everybody play.
Here, fly this garbage.
And I'm sitting there going, I hate you. I've tried so hard, and then you just hand me this perfect little space plane.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's one of those, you know how you say, I hate you. I am so pleased. I am so impressed with what you've done. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I can't do it, I know someone would say yet, but the fact that I can't do it, it's like, I'm so impressed and I hate you. So anyway, back to the letter. I don't really hate you, Freetoss. I'm just very much admiring. Finally, one suggestion. Plugging stuff. You guys are great at plugging your audience members' channels and such. But a lot of great stuff exists out there, both for the game and for space stuff in general. A great example of this is Scott Manley.
You said it! You said the name!
You
said his name! A whole year and you said it!
Probably most people who listen to the podcast know him already. But if they don't, then they are missing out on what, in my opinion, is the best KSP YouTuber to watch, due to the series episodic content that he puts out. A lot of other good ones off the top of my head are Nexter's Lab and Thor LP. Thanks for making it all the way through this rather lengthy letter. I quite enjoyed the podcast and hope that my more in-depth explanations help more than just keep up the good work. However, you guys need to hear that too, I suppose. Here's to another great year of Kerbalcast. Keep up the good work. Homer to your mobile, J. Arthur. P.S. I didn't know my name was slang for anything, to put it nicely, until hearing the most recent podcast. Sorry for putting you on the spot for that one. Too late now, though. You didn't put us on the spot. I was watching Goldmember.
Yeah.
The Austin Powers movie. And it's where he says, if we're going to talk dirty, let's talk English.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in there, they mention having a J. Arthur.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that just stuck in my head. And so when he wrote in and I saw, first name starts with J and the last name was Arthur, I just immediately went, hey, slang, J. Arthur. And
yeah.
I didn't look it up until later. So it's not your fault. It's my fault. Scott Manley.
You said it. You said it 2 times. So from the very beginning of the podcast, we sort of had a running joke that anytime anyone wrote in and mentioned Scott Manley, we weren't going to say it. And we're going to see how long we could do it before somebody would mention that we would never read those parts of their letters.
I am going to catch so much hell for this. I'm sorry. I have to say this. I don't like the Scott Manley videos. I know somebody just screamed bloody murder. I don't like the Scott Manley videos. When I was starting out as a new player.
No, hold on. We're not saying we don't like him.
Right.
We're
the
just
videos.
The videos.
When I started out as a new player, and I had questions and I was trying to learn, I would routinely, no matter what I typed into YouTube, generally something Scott Manley would come up. And I would try to watch them. And they were overly long. They were self-indulgent. They spent way too much time on things that to me were not that important. They spent too little time on things that I thought were important. I think the average Scott Manley video could be about 50% to 75% shorter and be a lot better. The reason that we have never mentioned Scott Manley before is I feel like there's so much more content out there that's better. And I know he's got a very strong reputation as being very good. And I don't want to take away from that. I know that there are a lot of people that do watch and do learn. But I personally have never benefited from them. And so that's why I've never mentioned them, because I don't want to be seen as endorsing them.
So I've been recommended, people have recommended, hey, Nos, you're the new player.
Right.
So here's some stuff that could get you started. And I tried watching a few of them, and they move very quickly, and it's like a whirlwind of information, And I just needed to learn, okay, how do I do this very basic thing? And I would have to try to find it in an hour-long video.
Right.
He is very good at the game and understands those concepts very well. As far as his ability to explain it, it moved faster than I wanted to, because I was like, I want to figure out how to do this one thing, and I need to know it step by step.
Right.
So as I would go through it, I'm looking through the sea of, fast-talking information to try to find the one thing I need to know, and it was always very buried.
Right.
And so it didn't have a lot of appeal for me. I only really want to share things that have helped me, because I know those things have helped me. Whenever it comes to sharing things that didn't help me, I can't really recommend them very much, because they didn't help me to do it. So I don't know if it's really going to help other people. Do I think his information is accurate and correct? Of course. Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's an uber level player. There's no question about that.
Yeah. He's top tier. He really understands his stuff. That doesn't mean it's the best way to be explained for my benefit.
Right.
Some people can catch all the information that he says and everything, and they're like, okay, I fully get it. And I'm not saying that you are more intelligent or less intelligent. There are just different teaching styles, and that is not the one that I want.
Yeah.
Now, as an alternative, we highly endorsed, besides the contributions he's made to our podcast, DK made tutorial videos, and they were very distinct and to the point, and they made sure to go at a decent pace.
Those were the reason that I praised the DK videos so much, those were exactly what I was looking for when I started.
Yeah.
Which was, he took one topic and he boiled it down to very specific bullet points. And he did it in a very quick and a very informative manner. And I know that a lot of work went into them, and I knew that it was lengthy, and that's why he wasn't able to make more. And anyone who makes videos and posts them on YouTube, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we are grateful for that.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing Scott Manley. Anybody that wants to contribute, great. I'm just saying that I personally have not learned much from them.
And really what it is, whenever I'm looking to learn something, like DK's video was short and it was very to the point, and there are more things you could know to be more efficient at the things that he describes, but you don't need to know those yet if you're just learning.
Right.
You just need to know the basics. So sometimes I need to hear how the watch works. Sometimes I just want to know what time it is. And
That's a good way to put it.
And with DK's video, it was telling me what time it is. With Scott Manley's, it's telling you how the watch works, and you're like, I don't need to know all this yet. It's not what I need to know yet.
Do you know what I think right now is the most helpful thing out there is Das Valdez on Twitch.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, the guy is just hands down. And also, what's nice about that is it's interactive. It is very much, it is not, when you watch it, you can tell that it is meant to be for the audience. It's not, hey, watch me play the game.
Yeah.
It's, I'm here to help, and I'm going to take on a subject, and I'm going to address it. And it's very helpful. If that is one thing I would very much endorse is Das Valdez on Twitch.
Another thing is, if you are looking for anything, like a YouTube tutorial, you type in anything and you'll get Scott Manley.
Right.
We're pointing you in the direction of the other people, because we figure if you've already looked, you've found Scott Manley, we're showing you other things that can do that also.
Right.
So it's like you're finding if you're looking for a soda, Scott Manley's Coca-Cola, you can find him pretty much anywhere. We're saying, but have you tried
Dr. Pepper?
Mr. Pibb?
RC Cola.
Yeah, Mr. Pibb's the best, though. I love Mr. Pibb.
What is it? What's the Walmart brand of Dr. What is it?
Dr. Thunder.
Dr. Thunder.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking it was like Mr. Thunder. Like he didn't go to school.
Yeah, he
very
didn't even
long.
get his doctorate yet.
Yeah. I'm Mr. Thunder.
Do you know actually Dr. Pepper and Dr. Thunder and all this? It's not Dr. Pepper, it's Der Pepper.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a period after the doctor. Der Pepper.
Der Pepper.
Mer Thunder. Things like that. So you notice that. I don't know why it's not there, but it's not there.
I don't know if I've said this in the past or not, but if I could put Dr. Pepper in an IV and just plug it into my veins.
Oh, it's so gross.
I love Dr. I wish it wasn't. I wish Dr. Pepper was, mass quantities
You are
of
such
Dr.
a fanboy, though.
Of Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, because the entire time you're talking to me, you're wearing a Dr. Pepper shirt.
Yes, I am.
Like, I know that everyone's like, oh, okay, he's just saying that, but no, you seriously are.
Yeah.
You seriously are. Okay, we're getting off soda talk.
Yeah.
But back to Scott Manley talk.
Well, last thing I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
When we worked together at the video game store, what
Yeah.
did I bring every time I showed up for work?
You brought Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like the what?
Like
the
a
2
2-liter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing would be gone by the end of the shift.
It was like a 3-hour shift.
Yeah. With lots of bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So back to the Dr. Manley.
Der Manley.
Der Manley. So back to Scott Manley. That's the reason we normally don't recommend it too much, is because it's the easiest to find, and it isn't something that has been as useful to us as the other things we recommend.
Right.
As far as the tutorial thing, the reason we don't do too many tutorials, because if you listen to the podcast, usually we're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why we've brought in people like Freetoss.
Right.
DK's done things for mods. Dark Mushroom was doing segments on just, different things, if you think you have a particular skill in an area, we love to have content creators, and we love to feature you. If you have a YouTube channel or something, you can feel free to plug that in a segment you make for us.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just in the same way that you give us constructive criticism, anytime you send us stuff, we're going to be creatively, constructive on it too.
Right.
So if like your audio needs help or anything like that, we'll talk and help you through making it, because some people have said they've tried to do this and it's a little weird, and it is weird, like doing a podcast, recording your voice and stuff like that. So,
well, you've heard that expression, doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. That's us as Kerbal players.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out. It's like, okay, there's a hole in the ground. Is that my butt, or is that a hole in the ground?
Yeah. So it's if you think you have something you can contribute, a segment,
Yes.
If you're like, hey, I want to do something from the ground up, like, hey, welcome to Kerbal Space Program, new Kerbal player, and you do a segment by segment thing. Yeah, like an introductory, like an actual beginner's thing, not beginner's minute, would be good.
Yeah.
So
we're going to move on now to Flight Fundamentals with Freetoss, and this is an example of exactly what we're talking about, which is we had a request for more information about space planes. Freetoss, I was watching him on Steam. He is so good. I was joking when I said I hate him. I do not. I greatly appreciate what he does.
we're just jealous.
Yeah, we're just incredibly jealous. But I was watching him on Steam, and I finally asked him, I said, could you please do a tutorial? And I have said this before, as much as I hate space planes, I have learned so much from following him. And yes, I did download and play the space plane that he came up with last time. And it really is. It's small, it's efficient, it works. And apparently he's going to tell us now even more. So, Freetoss Flight Fundamentals.
Greetings, Kerbonauts. Andy M here with episode 7 of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals. Seriously, Nos, we both send you guys audio segments fairly frequently and you can't tell us apart, and you do so in the same episode where I have to bite my tongue as you and Biff describe your trials and tribulations in aeronautics. All joking aside, with extra apologies to Andy for the awful impression. A few of you have told me that you've had success with the Kerbalcast space plane from last week. I may not be cheering people up in the hospital like Biff and Nos, but the fact that I'm able to help people explore new areas of KSP is more than enough reward for me. I hope I'll be able to continue with a bit of a review of the changes to the Ferrum Aerospace research and deadly re-entry mods. We'll start with Ferrum Aerospace. As I understand it, Ferrum totally rebuilt the mod from the ground up, changing how the aerodynamics are applied. In the old version of Ferrum, each part had aerodynamic forces applied to its centroid. Then the forces were summed up over all the parts on the ship. In the redesigned version of FAR, the volume of the entire craft is made up of three-dimensional pixels known as voxels. This lets the aero model be applied to a more accurate representation of the geometry of your ship, and accounts for things like part clipping without double counting the overlapping areas. Under the Transonic Design tab in the spaceplane hangar, you can select Display Debug Voxels to take a look at the voxels themselves from the FAR menu. The major new feature that this allows for is called area ruling. FAR has a new display option in the spaceplane hangar that lets you overlay two graphs onto your ship, also found under the Transonic Design tab, called Toggle Cross-Section Area Curves. If you look at these graphs, two lines will be overlaid onto your spacecraft, one green and one yellow. The green line represents the cross-sectional area of your craft at that position along its length, as calculated using the voxels. The more important line is the yellow one. It's the second derivative of the green line, or, if you haven't taken calculus, it's the rate of change of the rate of change of the green line. The flatter the yellow line, the less wave drag your craft will experience at supersonic speeds, unaffected in real life. To try and minimize this, build your planes with as few corners as possible. Keep all changes in cross-section area as smooth and gradual as you can. A triangular craft with a linearly increasing cross-sectional area will have very low wave drag, which is good because this is the type of drag that dominates at supersonic speeds. As far as how Ferrum Aerospace actually plays now, it'll be a bit of a shock switching over from 1.0 stock aerodynamics. You'll find yourself able to fly much faster, but experience aerodynamic failures much more easily as a result. Turning will also be more difficult as you can't count on the thick atmosphere to turn you. Remember my tips from before and keep your speed down. The aero brakes and flaps work great for slowing you down in FAR. If you're new to the mod, I definitely recommend going back to the basics and doing some simple planes before moving on to complicated space planes to get used to how FAR works. Even if you have experience with old FAR, it took me some time to get back into it after getting used to 1.0 stock. And by the way, the Kerbalcast spaceplane does not fare particularly well in Ferrum. It's tough to get off the ground without going too fast. It needs more lift. Deadly Reentry has been overhauled as well. I'm not quite as familiar with the inner workings of this mod, but I know the major change has been the integration of the stock heat system, as well as giving parts an internal and exterior, or skin, temperature that conducts heat differently based on what part it is. Overall, Deadly reentry and Ferrum working together makes heat a much bigger factor than even in stock. The return profile I described for the Kerbalcast spaceplane last episode was much too aggressive with both Ferrum and Deadly reentry installed. Combined with my experience with updated Ferrum, stay slow when you're low or you'll overheat. Wait until you're above 15 or 20 kilometers before trying to go much faster than Mach 2. I don't really have much more to say about Deadly reentry at this time, other than that, well, it's deadlier. Overall, I'm enjoying both mods and will keep them installed in my personal games. I'll try to keep Flight Fundamentals for both modded and stock players as much as I can. That's it for this week. If you have any questions, you can feel free to send me a message on Steam or tweet to me at Freetoss7. I'll talk to you again next week about vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. Homer to your mobile.
Oh, that's perfect. He got you.
I'm so sorry.
He got you.
I'm so sorry. Oh, man.
I don't listen to these before we play them on the show, so I didn't expect him to do that. That is so funny.
Like all last week, I was cringing because I was like, I can't believe I got that wrong. You know, like, and he's been sending it stuff, and it's been great content, and It's been like, pretty regular content for a while, and I happen to forget, like, screw up which, how he starts his stuff off and which person he is.
For just in case someone has not heard the last episode, Nos confused Andy M with Freetoss.
Andy M is he gives us audio letters, and Freetoss has been a segment contributor.
Right. And they sound very different.
Yes, and they start their letters very different.
Anyway, poor Nos. Oh, that is so funny.
Man.
Okay, now I hate Freetoss even more. That was perfect. That was perfect. I have a suggestion as an alternate to Homer to your mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Stay slow when you're low.
Ah.
That's what Freetoss said.
Yeah. Stay slow when you're low.
Freetoss, thank you so much for Flight Fundamentals. I truly am learning a lot from these.
Yeah.
And I strongly recommend, folks, if you have any interest in space planes, follow along with Flight Fundamentals. And we'll see what he gives us next week. Hey, Nos, what time is it?
It's time for the tweets.
Tweets.
Time for the tweets. Mittenpo, when I grab onto an asteroid in time warp, it explodes. Anyone else have the same problem? That is actually our Star Wars asteroid defense system.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the moment that we notice it's time warping, we actually have been keeping asteroids from gaining the ability to warp time because the asteroid races will overpower us. So the moment we notice that, we shoot them down.
But in a hole in the ground, huh?
Yeah. Jacques Adair, is it just me, or is docking usually only juniors and no docking mod really hard, especially with a big ship?
I can answer that and say, no, it's not just you. Yes, it is very hard.
This is Alex Boyd. Congratulations, Biff. Wishing you the best of joy. Little does he know that it's amazing. You're just loving it. Loving married life.
I am loving married life.
Yeah. Woo Wookins. What a lovely day. Kerbal Mad Max program. Gate Killer. What a day. What a lovely day. We're getting so many of these. MK3424, is it me, or is this decade becoming the decade of space movies? Gravity, Interstellar, Jupiter Ascending, The Martian.
Do you ever, there's that YouTube channel, the Honest Movie Trailers?
Yep.
Have you seen the trailer they did for Jupiter Ascending?
No.
I think it's Honest Movie Trailers, but they actually go through and explain the plot.
Oh, wow.
And the whole time they're explaining the plot on the screen, it keeps coming up going, someone paid money to write this.
Man.
I love every movie he's mentioned except Jupiter Ascending, and obviously The Martian, which I haven't seen yet.
Which, I mean, there's also all the other ones like John Carter of Mars and stuff like that, which is sort of... I
enjoyed John Carter
It
of
was
Mars.
like a visual fun fest. Honestly, I saw it in theaters, and I was like, this is okay. I was at a bar a few weeks ago, and it was on in the background, and it was awesome. Because you'd look over every now and then, like, he's jumping all over the place, and there's that really fast dog thing, and this is cool.
Do you know how I've talked in the past about bad advertising?
Yeah.
You remember I've said that, I understand the whole idea of advertising a movie is to get audience, to get butts in the seat.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I do think there's a danger in if you advertise a movie to the wrong audience, if you bring in the wrong audience, what's going to happen is they're going to hate the movie.
Mm-hmm.
you're going to alienate the audience that you should have had, and then word of mouth is going to kill it. Mm-hmm. You know, don't tell people it's an action movie when it's a meditation on violence. Yeah. And don't tell people it's a meditation on violence when it's an action movie, because you're going to end up with the wrong audience, and then it's going to miss its audience, and it's not going to do well. John Carter was not well advertised.
Yeah, it was not.
What they should have done was they should have said to everybody, this is the granddaddy science fiction. This is where Flash Gordon came from. This is where Buck Rogers. This is where Star Wars. This is where all of that came from.
It's a space action movie for kids.
Yeah.
It was so for kids. It was the plot from Aladdin.
It was just well done.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I thought it was advertised very badly.
Yeah, there's no way to know what it was.
And, you know, it was...
what it really was.
Well, it was really interesting to watch people complain that it was a Star Wars ripoff. And it's like... okay, the John Carter, Edgar Rice Burroughs stories were like a century beforehand. I mean, no, Star Wars flows from John Carter, not vice versa.
I think the best example of a movie being properly advertised was Coyote Ugly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if it was a guy's movie, like an action-y movie that's going to trend higher with males, they showed it as in, like, all these hot chicks dancing at this bar, and, like, everybody's wearing, like, lingerie and stuff. Right. And guys are like, ooh, what's that? If you went to a chick flick, well, you know, any sort of thing that would trend higher with females or anything like that, they would show it as in, it was a movie about a girl trying to make it in the city. Right. So anytime a girl's like, I want to see Coyote Ugly, all the guys are like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can't believe she's agreeing to see this. And then they would go to it, and they're like, what is this? Yeah.
The guys are going, this is a chick flick. And the girls are going, this is lingerie.
Yeah. And it's like, what were you expecting? But, I mean, it was a smart move. Freetoss. Seems you got a shout out in the dev notes, Biff.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say, Casper Vid, thank you so much. He mentioned in the dev notes, he said, congratulations on the marriage.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So if you needed any further proof that Squad listens.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he posted that like the day the podcast came out. So
Epic Jabster, you got wedded? Nice. Wedded is totally a word, by the way. BT dubs.
I got betrothed.
Cajun Nerd, congratulations on the nuptials, Biff. Just remember, the missus is now first, then KSP.
I think the missus is actually very pleased with KSP. Because it's like when she wants some quiet time, it's like, oh, go Kerbal.
Yeah, there you go.
Leave me alone.
And, you know, there are a lot worse, habits you could have, It's like,
you know what I hear all the time?
What?
Is at least he's not going to the strip clubs.
Yeah.
Which makes me laugh because the assumption in that statement is that there's two choices.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's like, okay, I'm either going to stay at home and play Kerbal or I'm going to go to the strip clubs.
Yeah,
and there's nothing in between.
Yeah, there's like, at least he's not watching TV. Well, no, that's about the same. That's okay. No, it's like either this thing or the complete other thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's a light switch, not like a scale.
With me, it would be more accurate, at least he's not playing some other video game.
Yeah. At least he's not going to Coyote Ugly.
Space alien decapitations.
Yeah. Lucaseum. Biff's tumbling spaceplane problem could be due to the center of mass shifting behind the center lift when you burn fuel.
That's a good suggestion. I had never thought of that, and I'm glad he said that.
Andy M. Biff, congratulations on getting married. Nos, you suck at impersonations. I'm never going to live this one down. It's like, if I'm lucky, maybe 2 or 3 episodes from now, people will forget, but they won't.
Can I tell you a secret?
What's that?
He didn't actually write that second part.
Oh, you did?
I did.
You jerk. You're instigating. You're instigating.
I'm sorry. I just, he said, Biff, congratulations on getting married. And I thought, oh, this would be so perfect to add Nos.
Yeah, our credibility's shot. No one can trust what's written.
Andy M didn't actually say that. He may have thought it, but he didn't actually say it.
Buglet Snuglet. I agree with you, Biff. Current scanners should let me scan what I want.
So, are we done with the tweets?
We're done with tweets.
Tweets.
Final stage expended.
Okay, and that means we're bringing this thing in for a landing. But before we do, we're going to do something that's...
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I wrote this. It's called the Nossian. It is a Kerbal Space Program retelling of The Martian.
Wait, does that mean there's like a planet Nos?
Well, this takes place on Duna.
Oh, okay.
You're just the Nossian.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, am I the Dunian then?
Will you be quiet?
Okay.
You haven't. He hasn't.
All right.
Stop! Don't look
Okay.
at it.
Okay.
You are not allowed to look at it.
All right.
Now, he has not seen this, so he's going to read it live for the very first time. Anyway, take it away, Nos.
The Nossian. Day 1. I'm stranded on Duna, abandoned by my crewmates. Well, that's not good. Day 2. I'm not sure what happened. We landed safely yesterday morning and began to put together our base camp. After working all day, I decided to relax and listen to some music. After a few seconds of Diarrhea Planet, the other Kerbonauts started screaming and covering their ears. Then they ran out, got into the ship, and flew away. Day 3. Well, I won't starve. After doing a thorough inventory of our base camp, I found enough food and supplies to last me for decades. As a result of Duna... As a resident of Duna, does that make me a Dunan or a Dunian? Oh, I called that.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Shut up.
Yeah. Day 4. Today I built my first rolly. Whee! Day 5. The reality of my situation has finally started to sink in. I'm stuck on a deserted planet. There's not a single person for thousands of miles to bother me. I have all my favorite music with me and all the food I could possibly eat. Day 6. I sure hope nobody tries to rescue me. Day 7. I am the Nossian.
Yay.
Well, the crew crash landed on Cookie Planet. So
that's true.
Yeah, so they had to come into them.
And they had an infinite supply of milk.
Yeah.
You are the Nossian.
I am the Nossian.
See, now you have to read the book.
I do.
So are you a Dunan or a Dunian?
Martian, Dunan.
Dunian.
Dunian. I like Dunian.
Well, see, that's why I called it the Nossian, because if I called it the Dunian, then it'd be like, huh?
The what?
Yeah.
So, better a Dunian than a Dontian.
Yep.
So,
that's true. Johnny Woo.
It's time
Johnny Woo. Do you know what the Biff version of the Martian would be?
What's that?
I would be stranded. Okay. The part of what happens in the Martian, okay, he gets left behind, and he goes through what his crewmates have left behind, and all he has for entertainment is somebody has an entire collection of disco music, which he hates.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of entire seasons of 70s TV shows. So he's stuck on Mars watching Dukes of Hazzard and Three's Company and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah. The Biff Aldrin version of The Martian would be, I would be stuck on Mars. Somebody would have left an entire collection of She Who Must Not Be Named and entire seasons of Keeping It Real with Kim Kardashian. What is that? What's that show called?
Oh, I don't...
the something Kardashians.
Keeping Up With.
Is it Keeping Up With? Okay.
I think so.
God, that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be,
and hey, it's good that we didn't know it off the bat.
I guess so. But anyway, it would be entire seasons of Kardashians and Duck Dynasty. And it would be a very short book because I would have killed myself at that point.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we want to say thanks to all of our listeners and regular contributors who sent in letters and tweets and all kinds of fun stuff. And also a big thank you to the subreddit moderators for Kerbal Space Program and Kerbal Academy. If you go to those Reddit pages, you will see a nice link right on the side of the page directly to us.
Okay, if you listened to us last week, you heard a new track off of Professor Soap's album, Experiments. Professor Soap is the guy who provides us with all of our episode music. And we want to give a huge thanks to him. The track was awesome. It was Space-Time Fabric Softener, which you have heard a version of on here. It is actually a version for the album. So it's a little bit different, and you'll notice that there are some similarities, but some major differences.
I guess we should give away. Last week, we kept saying it's a new track off the upcoming album.
Yeah.
The reason we didn't say the name of it was they said it was Space-Time Fabric Softener.
But we thought we already had that, so we weren't exactly sure. So if you want to listen to it again, it is Space-Time Fabric Softener, and it's for the new album Experiments. And so we wanted to give him a shout out because he's been providing us music pretty much the entire time we've been doing this podcast, and he's just really awesome. They've been really great to work with. So also you can find him on Facebook at facebook.com/Professor Soap, and his website is profsoaplive.com, PROF soaplive.com. And you can check out a video preview of the new live show that's also in production because he's been touring around and stuff. And he gave us some stuff to give away. So if you go ahead and send us an email saying, I don't know.
We want Professor Soap.
Yeah, we want Professor Soap.
No, you know what? I have a better one.
What?
Send us an email, and the subject line has to be "Soap us up."
Do that. That's too good. Do that.
Soap us up.
And we have 5 posters that we'll be giving away. Now, here's the cool part. He's going to let you choose the poster. So go onto the website and look at the store and look at what poster it's going to be and say which one you want. We're going to pick 5 of you, and you'll get that poster shipped to you.
Directly from
Professor Soap.
Soap us up.
So email at tagline "Soap us up," and in the subject of the email, "Soap us up," and then this is too good. And then
it's better than the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
which is don't drop the soap.
Oh yeah, don't do that one. So whenever in the email, put which poster you want, and you're also going to need to give us your address so we can have that thing shipped out to you. So they'll have it shipped out to you. We'll let you know when you win.
Okay.
So,
we want to say a big thank you to Ascalon. Not only is he posting episodes of Kerbalcast to YouTube each week, but he has taken on the monumental project of transcribing these episodes.
Whenever I was talking to some of them whenever they were watching my stream, and they said that Amy was finishing up transcribing episode 1.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And
that's the shortest episode.
Well, I mean, they're all picking different episodes to do. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it's a Canadian doing episode 6 just to keep it in the in circle. But they've all been picking episodes and transcribing them.
Okay.
So that is a daunting effort, and for anyone to listen to us that much, we salute you.
Seriously, there are death row inmates that probably think they have it better off than the poor people are having to transcribe us. We're trying to do our part by not talking over each other so much. Now that it's been pointed out to us, we're trying really hard not to talk over each other. But Ascalon is looking for volunteers. If you want to help transcribe Kerbalcast, please contact him. You can find him on Twitter. It's at ENT-Dept. So just think of the big walking, talking trees from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So if you would like to get in touch with us, our email address is kerbalpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at Kerbalcast.
You can also subscribe to us on iTunes if you want to check us out there and get pretty much them right hot off the presses when they show up.
Smoking hot.
All episodes of Kerbalcast can be found at kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com.
Do you want to hear something really embarrassing?
Yes.
DK was Twitch streaming the other day.
Uh-huh.
And I had not seen him on Twitch before, and anytime I see somebody that I like, I will, I'll follow them.
Yeah.
So that whenever they go on live, I get a notification and I know I can go watch. Well, when I did that, little did I know, immediately across the screen in huge letters it says Biff Aldrin is now following you. And so DK was like, "Hey, Biff Aldrin, Biff," and someone was like, "There's a Kerbal podcast," and he goes, "Biff, tell everybody where they can get it." So I start trying. Now, understand, I'm doing this with my thumbs on my phone.
Oh, okay.
And so I start trying to type the address. Mm-hmm. And the first time it was like, kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com.
Yeah.
And he was like,
because they're not words.
Yeah. And he's like, "That's not right, Biff." And I was like, "Oh." And then I went, and so then I posted kerbalcast.libsyn.com. And DK was like, "Okay, still not right, Biff." And I was going,
oh no.
And then I went, right, kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com. But anyway, it took me 3 times to post our stinking address.
We got all those domains and everything before we settled on what we're going to call it, which it was just going to be a Kerbal Podcast, but I was like, that seems a little too weird, so we went with Kerbalcast.
Well, I love what you said, which was, because originally I was just going to call it Kerbal Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, I'd rather call it Kerbalcast because if there's another one and we say we're Kerbal Podcast, people are going to go, which one?
Yeah.
So that's why the reason our address is Kerbal Podcast and we're Kerbalcast is because Kerbal Podcast came before Kerbalcast.
Yeah, that was the initial plan. And then, we still are a Kerbal Podcast, so it's really not,
we're Kerbalcast, a Kerbal Podcast.
Yeah.
You can also find us on Steam as Biff Aldrin and Nostromo. We are not celebrities. And if you would like to support Kerbalcast, you can donate to us at
Patreon.com/Kerbalcast.
I wanted to make sure I was saying it right. Every time I hit that, I always think,
Yeah, you pass it off to me.
Yeah.
You make me jump on that grenade.
Patreon.com/Kerbalcast. That does it for Kerbalcast episode 51. Whole lot of shaking going on. I am your LMP Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, our CMP Command Module Pilot
Nostromo.
Until next time, happy Kerbaling.
Hey, let's listen to it again. Professor Soap experiments space-time fabric softener.